I want to pose this question more to you and the Daddy Gang, but one of the biggest conversations in this year's election revolves around a woman's body.
Yep.
I want to take a moment and can we try to think of any law that gives the government the power to make a decision.
I know what you're going to ask.
About a man's body. Let's
No.
Is there any law?
No. It's no.
No. No. I feel like my boss.
My mind's going blank now. What's happening? I can't remember. I'm gonna lose track. My mind's going blank now. What are you talking about? What the hell's going on here? Where the hell are we? My mind's going blank now. I can't remember. I don't know what the hell he's talking about. What am I doing here? My mind's going blank now. Where am I headed? I keep forgetting I'm president. Where am I? No idea. Last night on the television, I was on a telephone rapidly rising and with I don't know. COVID has taken more than 100 years. Look, here's lives reflected in the NHEI. America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to him we're going to seize the ill-begotten gains of Putin's kleptocracy. NATO's purpose is to defend against aggression. Let me make near and dear to you that you like to be able to. Anyway. My mind's going blank now. What's happening? I can't remember. I'm gonna lose track. My mind's going blank now. What are you talking about? What the hell's going on here? Where the hell are we? My mind's going blank now. I can't remember. I don't know what the hell he's talking about. What am I doing here? My mind's going blank now. Where am I headed? I keep forgetting I'm president. Where am I? No idea. I don't think as the idea that political coverage. I want to thank and recognize Dr. John Kingersong. Good song. I can't get this to function at all. My mind's going blank now. What's happening? I can't remember. I'm gonna lose track. My mind's going blank now. What are you talking about? What the hell's going on here? Where the hell are we? My mind's going blank now. I can't remember. I don't know what the hell he's talking about. What am I doing here? My mind's going blank now. Where am I headed? I keep forgetting I'm president. Where am I? No idea.
I'm saying bye to all the lies and all the times you cried, saying that I wasn't right, yet I was right by your side. You manipulator, playing games, your friends commentators, and I don't know what you say about our private conversations, but it's got them hating. Thanks to all the rumors you be claiming. It's cool, I'm done with you, so they can throw you a celebration. You gon' hate it when you see me with somebody living better. I'm trying to tell you that me just doing me gon' have you jealous.
Welcome back, folks. Sunny day here in central Pennsylvania. It's October 8th, 2024. I must say I put out 2 videos this morning, and the viewership has been rather tepid and disappointing. A lot of work went into them, and just disappointing. But I'm sure that I'm speaking to the preaching the converted here, as I'm sure that most people here have already watched those videos, if not all of you. But thanks for being here, and for the handful of people that actually watched those things, it took a lot of time and effort to put into it. But thanks for being here. It is, again, Tuesday, the 8th of October, 2024, just a month out from the election, and signs of the cackling Harris's blue wall are cracking. Voters in Philadelphia in deep blue Democratic, decades-long, century-long hammerlock on the neighborhoods of Philadelphia where the middle class live, and particularly Hispanics and Black Americans are cracking. People are apparently going in droves towards Donald Trump's campaign. Now, whether that bears out on Election Day, we shall see. But scary thoughts for the Democrats here in Pennsylvania, a state they must win. They cannot win the election without Pennsylvania. They must win it. For years, people said that Republicans could not win the presidency without Ohio. Well, that's not the case anymore. Democrats cannot win the election without Pennsylvania. So we'll see what happens. Anyway, so what did I want to say here very quickly? Let me say hi to everybody first. Leah Minar is here. Welcome to you, Leah. And my eye is bothering me. I cannot see clearly this morning, so I've got a pair of reading glasses here just in case. Let's see if they reflect on the screen or not. Not too bad. If I lean down like that, you really don't see the reflection. But anyway, I'll go without them. We've got Teresa here. Congo Chris is here saying, hola, mochados. I think it's muchados, not mochados. But anyway, Pablo Charlie, Alter Bridge, Charles Van Onselen. I do believe, if I'm wrong in this, someone can correct me, but it came to my attention yesterday that this was mentioned, and I didn't see this. So if I missed it, my apologies. But I do believe that yesterday was Charles Van Onselen's birthday. I think the young man turned 36 yesterday. Congratulations. Happy belated birthday to Charles Van Onselen. Did I get it right? Did I get it wrong? Let me know. If I got it right, then let's give a little hearts and cheers. Put that little hearts button and wish Charles a happy belated birthday. So, yeah. Did I think I get it right? Yeah, I think I got it right. Anyway, happy birthday. Come on, somebody respond. We ought to be caught up now. It's not that big a delay in today's broadcast between YouTube. Yeah, by the way, I did get started on time, but it was a superhuman effort because this crappy software crashed again, and I was ready for it. 2 minutes before the broadcast, I went live, and it didn't go live. It crashed. Streamlabs has got some serious problems, so aha, there you go. 21 with 35 years experience. It was, in fact, his birthday. There you go, folks. Let's give it up for Charles, the voice of reason. All right, Alter Bridge is here. How's it going? My favorite song other than Toto. Oh, I love Toto. I hear the rains down in Africa. Yeah, great song. And Eric is here, Clive Streak, and Richard Kuhn. Hendo's here, Mark Sayers. Janet Liddy's all the way in from South Carolina, storm ravaged South Carolina, which looks like it's out of the path of Hurricane Milton. Interesting name, Milton. We are going to talk about hurricanes a little bit later on in the broadcast, so stay tuned for that. But on a lighter note, folks, I thought it's time we share this. Just this message brought to you by people who care about you. Remember, what you say around children is important because they're just little sponges, and they repeat what you say, and it could come up the most embarrassing moments, like this one.
A fucking goat outside.
It's just a goat.
No, it's a fucking goat.
No, baby, it's just a goat. No, it's a fucking goat. Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. And Congo Chris responding to the video I played earlier from Call Me Daddy, the Call Me Daddy podcast, which is all about oral sex. Yes, Call Me Daddy. Yes, there is a law regulating men's bodies. Absolutely. It's called child support. When a woman bears a child without telling the father that he's the father, or when a woman continues on bearing a child without any consent from the father rather than having an abortion, which he would ask for, well, then that's no control over his body, is it? Isn't it comical how dingbat, dumbass, dumb women ask stupid questions like that? If you have consensual sex with a man and you become impregnated and he doesn't want the child and you bear it, well, how is that control? There's no control over his body. He must spend the rest of his life 18 years being a debt slave to you because of a decision you made. I don't support abortion. I'm just saying, let's put that. Not to mention that in America, we have selective service, which forces men to register for the military draft, but not women. Talk about control over somebody's body. All right. Bystanders here. And Sue Walsh is here. And then Gina Mollman. And who else we got there? Mark Sayre. And Fleshin is here. All right, cool beans. I think I got everybody. Why are we talking about Rossi? Oh, okay. Hendo's talking about Rossi. Okay. We have effing goats all over the place in Australia. You have a lot of sheep too, man. A lot of sheep. A lot of sheep. 82 people here. Not bad. We can do better. Come on. Keep the chat rate up and see it'll draw people in. If you keep chatting and writing lots and lots of chat, people will come. If you build it, it will come. Yeah. So it's a lovely day here. I tell you, I was up early this morning around 5 o'clock and started working about 5:30, 6 o'clock. I worked on editing that video, which took me a bit of time because I had a couple errors in it. I've taken to just recording. and trying to be smart about when I'm pausing and not making movements so that it's not disjointed when I make the video. It used to be I tried to get all my thoughts together and I tried to do the video in one straight stream through. But I found out that becomes frustrating and difficult, and takes less time to edit it if I do it the other way. So it still took some time to edit this morning to add some things in. Then I went and did the other video, and then I did research for the news, and then I went outside about 9:30 to try to cut the grass. A pipe dream that was. Dew point was pretty high last night, and the grass is completely soaked. I am not cutting the grass when it's wet like that. So I won't be able to cut the grass until this afternoon, and got to let it go. I got to get done this afternoon because I'll be tied up during the day the next 2 weeks. By the time I get home, it'll be nightfall. So the only time I'll possibly be able to cut the grass over the next 2 weeks would be on a Sunday because I'll be doing consulting. Selective service is still the law, Flesh, and that's correct. In fact, if you don't enroll for selective service, you're denied federal educational benefits. Women aren't denied. They don't have to register for a selective service and then prove that they've done it. They apply for financial aid. They get it. The government gives them money, student loans and Pell Grants and things like that. But men, if you don't do it, and here's the most disgusting part about that. I had to apply for the selective service at the age of 17 in order to receive financial assistance to go to university, even though I wasn't even eligible to be drafted. Think about that. Think about that. At the age of 17, because I entered university at 17, I could not get financial aid until I had registered to be drafted in 1981. Now, it gets even better. I went in the Army. I served 3.5 years on active duty in a 3-year tour. I extended to try to reclassify, which I didn't like the option, so I went back to university. Then I went into the National Guard. In order to resume financial aid once I got back to school, I had to register for selective service, or I couldn't be there. And I want to say, if I remember correctly, not only that, but I might have had to register for selective service even to enroll in university, or I wouldn't be accepted in university, something like that. I'm trying to remember. Yeah. Helene says men should use a condom if he doesn't want to have a child. No, women should use the IUDs. People should abstain, Helene. You missed the point entirely. It has nothing to do about whether a man wants a child or not. It has everything to do with the idiotic comments that were made on the Let's Suck Wiener podcast, also known as Call Me Daddy podcast. Kamala Harris, her cackling. Anyway, that's what it's all about. You missed it completely. Yep, it's Hershey Bears. That's correct. Hershey Bears. Reigning 2-time American Hockey League champions, the Calder Cup. They're back this season and again have outpriced themselves. I'm not going to watch any of their games because I can't afford it. It's too expensive. I'm laughing like Kamala now. It's too expensive. $20 for parking. $20 for parking, folks. That's 400 Rand to park. To go, no, Helene, you don't have to apologize. No need to apologize. No need to apologize. Just want to make sure we're not in a misunderstanding here. No. I'm just making a point about how stupid the comment was by Kamala Harris. You're right. Men and women should be responsible. If they don't want to have children, they should be responsible and use contraception or simply abstain. Yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm with you. You didn't say abstain, I said. But I'm with you. Both parties are responsible. But a woman has a responsibility if she's impregnated by a man to share that information with the man and not simply go ahead and get an abortion. 2 people created that child, and 2 people have a say in it. And I don't want to hear the nonsense, well, it's my body. Well, you surrendered your body when you made it available for breeding. You may not like that you got bred, but you got bred. Simple as that. Mark entered the Air Force at 17. Okay. Yep. Both parties should be equally responsible. Exactly, Charles. I think we can all agree on that, Helene, right? Sell your beard for the gnome wig market. Well, I was looking at tickets for Wembley, there were no tickets, but then a few came available. One for £189 at the end of the pitch in the tri-zone. You won't even see the game. It's on the other end of the field. Springboks, England, November. Yeah, so couldn't find any tickets earlier this year. Now that one's 100 and something, so get married, stay faithful, sister. Oh, Richard, stop that. What are you? Are you part of the patriarchy? Are you one of those white Anglo-Saxon Protestant males that just believes in the supremacy of the Anglo-Saxon world? Shame on you, Richard Kuhn. And with a name like Kuhn, you should be a German. That's the only seats were available. And, yeah. I think everyone realizes I'm being facetious with that. But yeah, No. Helene, I was just commenting on the Suck My Wiener broadcast. I mean, Call Me Daddy podcast. Yeah. No kids are here. Already an X-rated live stream. Dodgy goat and sucking on ears. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna have to put a disguise on. Let's put my disguise on. Hello, how are you? Welcome to my broadcast. Woo! All right, back to reality here. I lost track where I was at there, but it must have been something interesting. It was before Helene said she was sorry, which she didn't have to do. We were sent conscription papers in Standard 8 already back in the day. Wow, Charles, that's crazy. Yep. All right, so my daughter Ruth priced an article to fly down to Cape Town. 10,000 Rand for a ticket? Wow. Biner says, never married, no kids. Do I feel left out? Maybe. But I can travel and have no issues. Life to be good. Okay. Well, there are definite drawbacks and advantages to both sides of the argument. But humans, like all species, seek to procreate and reproduce for the next generation. Well, anyway, it's that podcast. It's just that's pretty comical of that whole thing, you know. And then Kamala Harris, you know, oof, man, stupid. Look, here's the thing: the purpose of going on Call Me Daddy is to get young, edgy voters. Well, the young, edgy voters that watched or listened to that podcast are already voting for Kamala Harris, if they're voting. So it's not going to move the needle. She needs to move the needle among union workers, and 2 major unions have not endorsed her. Now, they've not endorsed Trump, but they've not endorsed anyone. So UAW is one of them. And we saw what happened with the International Longshoremen's Association when that scumbag, 78-year-old multimillionaire piece of human feces that makes $1 million a year off the backs of longshoremen. And we look at longshoremen who make $39 an hour, $39 an hour, and the majority of them make over $100,000 a year in salary, let alone benefits, and they want a 77% pay rise. This guy lives in a 7,000 square foot home with a Bentley parked outside. See, that's the problem, folks. We don't need helicopters from the news service anymore. We all got drones. So we just fly our drones over your property, take a look, take pictures. These little scumbags making $1 million a year. Look, I get it wrong. You can make $1 million a year. But don't pretend to be the defender of the small man, the working class, when you're clearly not working class, you piece of crap. Anyway, but the longshoremen, when that union endorsed the Biden regime endorsed Harris after they got themselves a 62% pay raise because the Biden negotiators lied to Joe Biden and said that the companies agreed to pay 62% more, and they hadn't. So now they were stuck because it was released to the press. When that happened, so they were grateful. So they said, okay, we endorse Harris. Well, when the International Longshoremen's Association endorsed Harris, the news media went out there and they talked to them. They went out on the docks at Dundalk. Yeah, so we're out here at Dundalk and we're talking to port workers, white, Hispanic, black, Asian, women, everybody. Almost no white men, probably about 30% were white men. We're out here talking longshoremen here at Dundalk Marine Terminal, and we just want to get your thoughts. Who here is going to be voting for Kamala Harris? Not a single person. I'm going to tell you something, folks. If longshoremen, 100% of longshoremen in one anecdotal case are in Baltimore, Maryland, are not voting for Kamala Harris, they're voting for Donald Trump, it's game over. It's game over. Slaughter. It's not even going to be close. Wow. Wish you healing. Oh, it's hey, Loudnine. How's it going? Aaliyah went in 76 and stayed until 2013. Would the USA citizens be able to vote where Hurricane Helene caused a lot of devastation? Well, Lynette, it's not a question I can answer because we don't know the current situation. I have grave concerns that people will be able to vote. The good news, however, provided no additional storms come, is it's already been 2 weeks. And now temporary roads, graders, access is being restored to much of the area. And the state has the capacity, the state of North Carolina and Georgia, to get voting mechanisms in place. Now, the question is, for instance, as a judge of elections here in central Pennsylvania, I have to organize a team of volunteers who get small stipend for doing it. I get paid. It's not much. I get paid like $175. It's a matter of public record. $175 for doing the judge duties in one day. I make that more than that 1 hour of consulting, but for a 16-hour day, I get $175. So about $10 an hour for working all day and into the night. But so those people get a little bit of compensation. But I have to form a team. I have to make sure that I get people from each political party, the two parties that represent us. It's not just all one party. I also have to make sure that everybody's a registered voter in this precinct. Now, not this precinct, in this district. If we're short people, the county can make exceptions, but I can't simply just grab those people. So I have to organize those teams. Well, the judges of elections, or how they do it in North Carolina, because each state is different, they've got to go out and do that too. I mean, if all the people you count on lived in the floodplain, or what became the floodplain of Asheville, and they've all been washed away and are dead, you're going to have to find people. So the good news, if there is good news from a standpoint from an election perspective, is that there is time. It's not a priority for some people, but the people responsible for elections, it is a priority. So they're working on that already. Mark, I don't disagree. Well, I say the same thing about 2020. Okay, Erica, you got your chair today. I didn't see that. I thought you said it was still coming. Doring Hawk says, agree. I think the laughing hyena is in trouble. She's in a lot of trouble. Yeah. Unions are bailing on her. Hispanics are bailing on her. I saw the statistic, and then Donald Trump repeated that 62% of Hispanics are going to vote, likely voters, going to vote for Donald Trump across the country. That's huge. If that's the case, then California won't be in play, but it won't be a 5 million, 8 million, vote victory for Harris in California. That her home state won't even be that. It'll be much smaller margin if that many Hispanics are going to vote for him. We also know that black men are coming in droves to Donald Trump. Probably over 30% of black men will vote for Trump, which is historic. Not since the Democrats stole black voters with their lies and their racism of the 1930s have we seen this sort of enthusiasm for a Republican candidate. Remember, the Republican Party is the party that ended slavery. The whole purpose of the Republican Party was abolition, the abolishment of slavery. Democrats not only supported, but propped up slavery. And when a Republican president was elected in 1860 and took office in 1861, what did Democrats do? They left America. South Carolina, Virginia, Florida, Georgia, Mississippi, Alabama, Texas, they all seceded from the Union rather than be part of the Union because they wanted to continue the institution of slavery. Democrats, not Republicans. And it took a Republican president to hold this republic together. Now, the way he held together, we can argue about right or wrong, but it was held together. The purpose of the Republican Party was then slavery. And for a century, well, not quite a century, about 70 years, the black voters rewarded the Republican Party and voted overwhelmingly for Republicans. I didn't see anything from Netanyahu. That must have just happened. Very ironic that Toto's Africa is the best song on the continent and not one of them had been Africa. That's true. Yeah, not one of them been Africa. That's true. That's strange. They should have gone to South Africa on tour at some point. Oh, 5 minutes ago. Okay, well, let me just look that up very quickly here if it's being reported on the mainstream media. Let me go to the Wall Street Journal. Nope. Let me go to the New York Times. Nope. Their news hasn't changed. It hasn't caught up to the legacy media yet. Even though they're on the web, that's the funny thing about the legacy media. They're on the web and they have editors, but they aren't timely. Unbelievable. California has passed a law banning the need to show a voter ID. Yeah, exactly. You can't go into Costco without showing photo ID. But Costco, California requires you to show photo ID. I know. I lived in Monterey. I went to the Costco. Had to show photo ID. But you don't have to show it to vote. Now, California's law will be declared unconstitutional at some point, but it won't be in time for this election. They're insane. It just shows you how stupid and demonic people really are to believe the nonsense about ID is racist. No, it's not. If ID is racist, then why do you force me to carry a driver's license? Well, because we need to prove that you're operating a motor vehicle. Well, can't you do that based off the registration? The vehicle's got a registration on it. You got a laptop in your cruiser. Punch in the registration number and see who it's registered to. come up to the car, you'll see a picture, right? You'll know who I am. Why do I have to carry a driver's license around? Why? Isn't that racist? North, south, and west. Well, no water in a big part of Joburg today. Hardly surprised given the ineptitude of what's going on there. Anyway, before we get deep into the news, folks, I think it's time just to share this once again. We got to be careful not get too confident about this election because, quite frankly, I have grave concerns that I share with Admiral Akbar. Admiral Akbar told us best.
It's a trap.
It's a trap. Yeah, his successor over the weekend. So I don't know where he got it 5 minutes ago. Exactly. I thought you were talking about the successor to successor. Yeah, no, I reported on that. Both of those, taking both those guys out. So I'm not sure what we're talking about here. That's news to me. Like I said, news to me. We must be talking about the successor to the successor to the successor. Anyway, let's get to the news, folks. No water in Joburg. Yep. Residents of Johannesburg are again experiencing water outages, this time due to a pipe burst in the Honeydew Tower. Really? One tower? Johannesburg Water is investigating a burst which is affecting high-lying areas in the north and west of the city. Tuesday's outage is due to a pipe burst at the Honeydew Tower. The pipe carrying water from the Honeydew Reservoir was bent when the outlet reservoir pipe burst on 29 September, and the pipe burst on Sunday evening. Wow. So how did it get bent? Because the other one burst? What's going on here? Wow. Pipe is still broken. It's smaller than the one that burst last week. It runs horizontally and deteriorated since it burst. The problem is that even on bypass, the water pressure is not high enough to reach the high-lying areas. Well, there you go. Wow. Panyaza Lesufi is rising, ladies and gentlemen. At least he thinks he's rising. The man is arrogant and cocky beyond belief. He spews racial hatred. He is a dangerous, dangerous person. Well, he was supposed to be spanked by the Secretary General of the African National Congress, none other than Fikile Mbalula. Unfortunately, it didn't go very well for Fikile. Yep. Panyazi Lesufi and his anti-GNU allies in an ANC emerge victorious over Fikile Mbalula's attempts to discipline him. This photograph looks altered to me. Does that look doctored to you guys? It looks like someone put the face on there. That's actually not his face. It looks like a cartoon face put on there. Here's the guy, this Mr. Comegelo Mochela, who loves to run stories about Ronaldo Jose, calling him a racist. Gauteng ANC chairperson, its chairman, Panyaza Lesufi and his allies have secured a significant victory over their pro-GNU faction, the ANC. Oh, excuse me. Okay. The pro-GNU is not a faction in the ANC. It's the majority. It's not a faction. So let's correct what is fake news reporting. Pro-GNU is not a faction in the ANC. You can call it a faction if you want, but it's the majority. So they tried to spank him, and it didn't quite work out. ANC Secretary General Fikile Mbalula summoned Lesufi yesterday to address his comments on the government. However, the effort failed after Mbalula himself faced challenging questions on the issue. Sources informed IOL that vocal Gauteng leaders expressed frustration over the national leadership's silence and its lack of support amid attacks from the GNU's allies, or the ANC's allies, particularly the Democratic Alliance. It is understood that regional leaders clarify the ANC is not subordinate to the DA. Obviously, the ANC is not subordinate to the DA. This is a story in search of attention, but that's all the attention it gets. Hey, listen, ladies and gentlemen. Gwede Mantashe, South Africa's brilliant Minister of Minerals and Energy and whatever he's in charge of these days. Gwede Mantashe has discovered something. Do you know that if you eliminate the unnecessary taxes on petrol that the ANC has put on it over the past 20 years, the price of petrol would drop by 50%? Did you know that? Did you know that? Well, of course you knew that because I've told you that for years. But apparently Gwede Mantashe discovered this. Wow, if we take the taxes off, we'll take the pressure off of families struggling. You think? And then if the price of petrol goes down by 50%, which is artificially inflated by government taxation, which is money just wasted by the government, then the cost of goods delivered will go down since everything's being delivered by trucks since the rails have been destroyed. And if the cost of goods going down the store is good, that'll put less pressure on retail organizations. They don't have to raise their prices. Oh my goodness, what a winning concept. Government is currently discussing ways to decrease fuel prices, according to Gwede Mantashe. Petrol and diesel should cost 14 a liter, but both the general fuel levy and levy from the Road Accident Fund have distorted prices to more than 20 per liter, he says. Oh, my goodness. And he just discovered this. Oh, my goodness. So impressive. I'm so enamored with Gwede Mantashe. Can we talk? Can we talk about Gwede Mantashe? I'm just so impressed with him. He's such a brilliant man, so smart. I mean, he figured this out all by himself. Nobody told him. He just went, petrol costs 20 rand a liter. Why is it so expensive? Oh, we have taxes. If we take the taxes away, it would be cheaper. Wow, Gwede Mantashe is such a brilliant person, folks. Wow. Dorian Hawk says, great podcast, Chris. Please run in the PA. Oh, please run in PA again. We need you. Dorian, me running in Pennsylvania again for politics, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what I have to do, make friends with billionaires or something like that. But if I get maybe, I don't know. I'm not going to close it out. And look, I mean, I'm all for, representing the people and leading. I mean, but I mean, I tell you, I get frustrated. Let me just give you a little example here, just a minor thing. It gets so frustrating here. And this is something. So the veterans organization I'm responsible for had a license renewal for part of its activity, which raises revenue on a daily basis, things that are sold, but we can't sell it without this license. Well, the license, it's a whole long story, but it took almost 7 months to get the license renewed. And I finally got it renewed through a concerted effort, and it wasn't easy. And I picked up the license yesterday. For the past month, and previously I asked the question before, because we hired a new manager and we had staff turnover, and I've asked the question, are we prepared? Do we have sufficient resources in place so the moment that we have the license, we can just go? Because there's pent-up demand, there's pent-up desire for it. And I was assured, yes. I was showed a stack of things that supposedly are enough. I was questionable. I said, is that enough? Well, no, it's not enough. But when you tell us we'll call so-and-so and we'll get new ones delivered that same day and we'll be ready to go. So I got a phone call yesterday, some of you know, and they said, hey, your gaming license is back on. Okay, so I drove an hour down there to collect it. On the way down there, I sent the text message to all the directors and I sent it to the manager and I said, hey, I'm picking up the license. Okay, I need the following to happen. Boom, 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 boom. Get the tickets ready. Have them under the bar. Get everything ready. Make sure we have enough so that we don't run out. And when I get there, you can't put them out until I get there. Anyway, the whole thing got cocked up. So last night I get a message from a board member. I didn't leave the Veterans Organization until 7 o'clock last night, or almost 7 o'clock. I was gone all afternoon. From the time I ended my broadcast until 7 o'clock at night, I wasn't home. I was out doing unpaid volunteer work to get this place keep it from going under insolvency. And I come back and my reward is getting a message from someone telling me, well, we're out of games. Well, that's not true. We have games. Well, they're not the games people want. Well, I don't know what to tell you because that's what we had. And, well, why didn't we? You should have just waited to sell the games tomorrow. I said, the problem with that is that I didn't release the fact that the games, that we had the license back. But then people have big mouths. And all over the community, people already found out that we had the games back. So there were already people coming in and demanding to play games. And so we're supposed to turn them away? We have games. They don't like them. I don't know what to tell you. There's rugby on Friday, but I don't like the rugby. I'm not going to watch it. So, it's Cardiff. It's not my fault. It's very frustrating. So when it comes to running for office again, someone's going to have to recruit me. And I don't know if I'll run for a state office again. I mean, I would probably run for Congress or something higher, but it's very frustrating. Yeah. Very frustrating. All I need to do is ask Chris. I'll speak to Elin, South Africa. Well, yeah, please do, Congo, Chris. Why don't you speak to Elin and ask him to come on my program so that my channel will blow up? Why don't you do that so we can overcome? Because wouldn't that be ironic? I announce a stream with Elon Musk live on my original channel and 35 people show up because YouTube hides it. Then we can prove. That'd be perfect. That's a perfect test case. We prove that. But if I did a test case, if I did a stream with Elon Musk on my original channel, I would have 200,000 subscribers by the time the stream is over. I'd have to turn off the new subscriber thing because it would interrupt this all the time. So if somebody can get me Elon Musk, please do it. Diesel not regulated is getting its, while others charging 22. Yeah, no, it's fine, Congo. Get lots of hate bots. Always get that. Okay. All right. So here's an interesting one. I've always considered myself black. A candidate before the Judicial Services Commission, the first question is asked about is race. Why are South Africans so obsessed about race? I've always considered myself black, says Judge Philip Coppin after the Judicial Service Commission asked for clarity on his race. The first question Judge Philip Coppin was asked by the Chief Justice Maya during his Judicial Service Commission interviews was for him to clarify his race and identity. Why? Maya asked Coppin about his racial identity, referencing conflicting descriptions received by the JSC. He was interviewed for a Supreme Court of Appeal vacancy. I want to get something out of the way for me at the outset. It's a nasty question, but a necessary one. We live in South Africa, and this is an issue for us, and it's an issue for your race, an issue of your race. You describe yourself as colored in your form, which is what should guide us. But one of the professional bodies has written in and said you're a white male. And so will you assist? Are you a white male? He said, I don't know which white male would be born in Kliptown, Soweto, and attend school in Noordekasing Secondary School. In any event, to put the record straight, I've got nothing against white males. They can also make a value contribution. As far as my blackness is concerned, I've always considered myself black. Oh, look at that. Look at racist South Africa, questioning a man whether he's actually black or not. Wow. 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 Racist much? Judicial Service Commission? Why should it matter? Why should it matter? It does matter, so that we can ensure that only black judges get appointed. Well, other EFF members are running their mouth and putting themselves at risk because they don't have the top cover that Floyd Shivambu and Julius Malema do. They're allowed to say what they want by their taskmasters. Yeah, it sounds like the apartheid state doing pencil test. Yep. Busisiwe Makwebani's racial remarks draw attention of the South African Human Rights Commission. Attention? What do you mean attention? Why have they filed a lawsuit? Why have they already filed a lawsuit? I mean, they're already bankrupting Ronaldo Khoz. Why aren't they bankrupting Busisiwe Makwebani? She's a member of parliament. She said this in parliament. Ronaldo said something 15 years ago. Hyperbole on a video that didn't even exist on the internet. She said it in parliament. Serving member of parliament. You want to talk about bringing disgrace and dignity, a lack of dignity to South Africa. Well, talk about a dual system. But EFF MP Busisiwe Makwebani is apparently drawing the attention of the South African Captured Human Rights Commission. However, fellow EFF MP Sinowo Tambo supported Makwebani and continued to criticize South Africans of Indian descent. So he's piling on. Another EFF MP spewing racial hatred against Indians in South Africa. Will action be taken against them? Will they be removed from parliament? No. If they were white, yes. In fact, we've had a white member of parliament removed for something that never happened. Ronaldo Khoz. Well, he doesn't want to get a blemish on his record. He doesn't want to hurt his name. Who are we talking about? Well, MK Party is very upset that John Schlope is no longer in the Judicial Service Commission, but John Schlope resigned. So, what are they smoking? What you talking about, Willis? Yep, MK Party vows to fight for Schlope despite his resignation. He's looking pretty sad and pathetic there. Not to mention that's a hideous-looking jersey. That polo is horrible. MK Party spokesman Nlamulo Ndela said the party will continue challenging the legal debacle of their parliamentary leader John Schlope despite his resignation. Interesting. We can't afford to take things lying down. His resignation doesn't mean we're abandoning the legal application. We're going to continue with that. His resignation is because he does not want to blemish his name due to a process that is not constitutional and does not represent the people's will. Actually, you're wrong, EFF. And this is why putting people with the equivalency of a 30% matrix into parliament is not a good idea. Oh, but John Steele doesn't have a college degree. Yeah, but putting EFF 30% matrix, what is that? The purpose of the court is to rule on the legality of actions in society. If Parliament does something that is not in keeping with the standards of the Constitution, it is the responsibility of the Supreme Court of Appeal and the Constitutional Court to uphold the Constitution. And that's what they've done. John Schlope was disgraced, impeached, removed from the bench. Then to put him in charge of the body that removed him makes no sense whatsoever. John Lowe says South Africans are not obsessed about race. It's the spiteful mutants. Agreed 100%. It's the media. But in this case, it's the government. The Chief Justice asked, what's your race? Wow. What does it matter? It matters because they have quotas, because only black folks can be judges or members of the General Officer Corps or people running the country. Yep. Well, folks, the competition watchdog has said it's okay to go ahead with the contract for the Durban Port, the 25-year tender with a Philippine company, one of the largest in the world, going to run the port and revitalize it, but only if they create a BE company. Yeah, exactly. Yep. The Competition Commission has approved a transaction which International Container Terminal Services Incorporated will expand, upgrade, and operate the Durban Container Terminal Pier 2. 25-year tender. Is anybody complaining about that? Remember the car power ship? South Africa got an emergency 2 gigawatts of power generation, but it fell by the wayside. The contract is too long. It's 25 years. Who could do a tender like that? It's crooked. Maybe it was, but is this crooked? I doubt it. Yeah, it is. It is course crooked. It's all about riching the caters. Now, here's something to scare folks. Ladies, if you're alone, if you're a not a widower. If you're a widow, at least modern day, I guess you could be a widower if you're a dude. But if you could be a widow if you're a dude. If you're a widow, or if you're simply alone and don't have a partner, or your partner is passed, don't be taken in by charlatans. Shock as a woman finds out her lover, who she gave 3 million rand to, is not Mark Hermanus, but a Nigerian man. Nigerian national Gabriel Okari has been remanded in custody after a woman lost 3 million to him she met through Facebook. The 39-year-old appeared before the Pretoria court after he was arrested on Thursday in Cape Town by the Director of Priority Crime Investigation. The complainant in the matter alleges that she met what she thought was a white male on Facebook by the name Mark Hermanus. The two exchanged cell phone numbers and began chatting on Instagram, instant messaging, WhatsApp. While the pair were getting to know each other, Mark Hermanus informed the complainant that his son was sick and asked the complainant to lend him money for his son's medical bills. The Hawk said the woman kept giving Mark Hermanus money, and the bill escalated to over 3 million rand. Wow. He promised he'd pay the bills back once he paid all his son's medical bills. Ladies and gentlemen, do not give money to people who approach you on text messages, over the internet. Do not give money to people. Do not be hoodwinked. If you're lonely and sad, send me a message, an email, and you can support me. I'm just kidding. Seriously, don't. This happens all too often. All too often. Yeah. Why would you give money to someone you've never met for their son's medical bills? I mean, the story is obviously much more complicated than that, but what level of trust could you possibly develop off of someone? If Debbie said if she had 3 million, she'd come visit me. Yeah, exactly. No, please don't do that. That's some bad mojo. All right. Stupid women give money away. I'd rather stay single. Well, stupid men do the same thing. Women promise things. They promise marriage. They promise to give kids. They promise partnership. They promise sex. And then they don't deliver on any of it. Men spend their money on women anyway. I don't mean to laugh, but it's sad. But it's a true statement. Happens both ways. But women get hoodwinked a lot, especially when they're lonely and are desperate. So we do it all the time. It's called SARS. Yeah, exactly. Well, take your attention away from South Africa to Kenya. Their parliament will vote on impeaching the deputy president. This has been a story that's been brewing for a few months now. He's facing allegations of corruption and undermining the government, stirring ethnic hatred. Kenyan members of parliament are due to vote on impeaching Deputy President Gachagua for alleged corruption and undermining the government. He's rejected the allegations, expected to defend himself in parliament this afternoon. Well, it's already evening. He said, "I'm innocent of all these charges. I have no intention whatsoever to resign from this job. I will fight to the end." They launched the impeachment process on October 1st with 291 MPs signing up to the motion, well beyond the 117 minimum required. In the lower house, votes by more than 2/3 to impeach. The upper house, the Senate, will be asked to uphold the motion by the same margin. They listed 11 grounds for impeachment, but prosecutors have not formally charged him, and no judicial inquiry has been opened against him. So there's no criminal charges, there's no investigation into his conduct, yet members of parliament want him impeached. Remember, folks, an impeachment is a political process to get rid of an opponent. That's what it is. It's not a criminal trial. So that doesn't mean he did anything wrong, it just means they don't want him there. One of Sudan's warring factions has pulled out of peace talks. Yep. Malik Agar, deputy president of the Transitional Sovereignty Council of Sudan, his delegation left the conference on Sunday morning after the arrival of General Diagalo, the commander of the RSF. Yep. Agar was expected to be present to present remarks on the Sudan conflict at the beginning of the annual Africa Peace and Security Dialogue hosted by Thabo Mbeki Foundation. But when the RSF leader showed up, he skedaddled and left. So much for that. Ethiopia has picked a diplomat to be its next president. Yeah. Ethiopia's parliament Monday elected Foreign Minister Taye Atsi-Selassie as the country's new president. He replaced the outgoing president, Sabel Work Zawele, who's been in office since 2018. The parliament elects the president. The prime minister's ruling party has a majority in parliament. There you go. So really not a particularly powerful position. President of Ethiopia. It's the prime minister. Interesting, has the name of Selassie, any relation to Haile Selassie and the overthrown empire family. Well, Ghana is reporting its first cases of monkeypox. Oh, it's spreading, folks. It's spreading. It's spreading. You know, I don't see anybody in South Africa protesting for the victims in Sudan. Nope. Or in Myanmar. Or in China. Nope. Ghana reports first monkeypox case, but the variant is not yet clear. They haven't quite figured out which variant it is. Probably busy now looking at the genetic makeup of this. Ghana's health service reported the country's first case of monkeypox this year without disclosing which variant had been recorded. They've had cases of monkeypox in 2022, 2023, so this is the first one this year, so it's not like it's the first time it's been there. Lebanon's Hezbollah launched more attacks against Israel with its biggest rocket attack yet at Haifa. Hezbollah fired its biggest yet rocket barrage at Israel's Haifa as the group's remaining leadership promises more attacks. Well, then you're going to get more punishing raids and probably more exploding pagers. Hezbollah deputy chief says the group backs a ceasefire. Now, this is shocking to hear this. Hezbollah's deputy leader, Naim Qassem, said Tuesday the group supports efforts toward a ceasefire in the Lebanon-Israeli border. Qassem said Tuesday that Hezbollah remains organized and has overcome painful blows. You think? You've been obliterated. You're still around, no doubt about that. Meanwhile, things continue to go from bad to worse for Ukraine's grifter. That's right, Ukraine's forces continue to be pummeled and retreat. Russian forces have entered the key eastern Ukrainian town of Toretsk. Ukrainian military calls the situation unstable with fighting at every entrance to the frontline city as Russia continues to make gains along the eastern front. After 2.5 years, it appears that the Russians are finally grinding down the Ukrainian forces, and they're on their last nerve as they continue to pull back in the eastern Ukraine. Not good news for that war. Will Russia have its way? Time will tell. Port of Montreal dock workers plan overtime strike as negotiations continue. More greedy longshoremen. Dock workers of the Port of Montreal won't work overtime in an attempt to ramp up pressure on employers as efforts to grant labor deal drag on. The Longshore Union filed notice of an indefinite overtime strike that will begin Thursday morning. It follows a 3-day strike that halted operations at two of Canada's busiest seaport terminals last week. The Maritime Employers Association, which represents employers at the port, said it formally asked for a strike notice to be withdrawn and warned that employees assigned to shifts and insufficient workers wouldn't be paid. Well, good. Don't pay them. As they destroy people's businesses, let them suffer. No pay. Let their unions pay their salary. Kamala Harris is struggling to break through with working class. Democrats are terrified. In crucial blue wall states, Harris's allies want sharper economic message from the cackling hyena and more campaign visits. Democrats have privately grown worried about Kamala Harris' standing among working class voters in crucial blue wall states, especially in Michigan. Trump has assiduously courted union members and non-college educated white voters with a message focused on high-cost manufacturing and threat of China to the U.S. Yeah, Democrats want her to start stepping up. Well, she's not capable, folks. Don't get too excited. Recent polling shows Harris and Trump essentially tied in Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. Well, don't believe that for a heartbeat, folks. We're not tied. The only way they win in Pennsylvania is if they steal it. Well, Milton is coming. Hurricane Milton. Where's everybody going, folks? It's not even 1 o'clock yet. Hurricane Milton. Florida braces for another major storm as Milton approaches. Hurricane Milton is expected to make landfall in Tampa on Wednesday, bringing potentially life-threatening hazards. Wow. Florida is preparing for Milton as potentially life-threatening hazards to the state for the second time in less than 2 weeks. Governor DeSantis warned residents of Florida's Gulf Coast to brace for ferocious storm. Milton, the strongest storm in the Gulf of Mexico since 2005, was expected to make landfall in the Tampa Bay area on Wednesday, so tomorrow. Let's take a look at the path of that hurricane, the projected path, okay? So here's what's going on with my desktop here? It's not quite working properly here. So this is where it's projected to make landfall. Let me zoom that map in a little bit there so you guys can see it. Where's my damn mouse at? A little bit better there. So that's projected path of hurricane. You can see the line to the left. That's where the storm started. It advanced up and then went eastwards towards the Yucatan Peninsula. As of 2 p.m. Tuesday, which is in 1 hour, it should be into that purple path. And it'll continue on to hit Florida headed directly for Tampa Bay. Wow. And by Friday morning, it should be dissipated in the South Atlantic, I should say. No, North Atlantic. Sustained winds are at least 74 miles per hour for hurricanes and 39 for tropical storms. So if you get that speed, then you are hurt. Sorry. Okay, what is going on here? Sorry, folks, my mouse is hijacked here. There we go. I got it back. It's what the hell's going on here? My mouse is all acting up. It's almost like somebody's in my computer right now. Wow, that's crazy. All right, so let me see something here real quick. Make sure that something's not happening here. Nope, it's not open. I'm just making sure that wasn't happening there. Okay. All right. Yeah, so very annoying when you don't have control of your mouse. Damn it. Oh my goodness, what is going on here? Do I have to get a new mouse? There we go. That's a lot better. Okay. Man. Acting up. Prince George's County is considering tying minimum wage to the cost of living. You want to talk about stupid? So when the government determines what the cost of living is, which is often erroneous based on bad data, they're going to raise the minimum wage, pushing inflation. Prince George's County, Maryland's current minimum wage is $15 an hour, an amount set in 2017 under a 2013 law that required incremental increases. The county's current minimum wage is $15 per hour, an amount set in 2017. It should be a human right. People should make enough money to feed their family and take care of their families. Well, maybe people should get jobs based on merit and hard work and thrift and achievement in life and not expect to be handed things. Wow. In a county of 947,000 people, it's seen an increasing number of recently arrived immigrants. No. There are recently arrived immigrants, but most of them are criminal alien invaders. Tens of thousands of Prince George's residents don't even earn the county's minimum current wage. Yeah, they're all criminal alien invaders. People who work in the county, live there, are legal residents. They're earning the minimum wage or better. And by the way, PG County is one of the wealthiest counties in America. Wow. Unbelievable. Stupid people saying stupid things. The United States has warned of disinformation. Our propaganda ministry is full motion. Voice America. American voters are likely about to be swamped by a flood of misinformation, influence campaigns engineered by U.S. adversaries. No. Now, the misinformation is engineered by the Democratic National Committee and the Kamala Harris campaign. Folks, before this broadcast, I watched an ad. It came on my phone, and every single thing was a lie. They claim that Donald Trump is going to increase taxes on families and Kamala Harris is going to reduce taxes. That's nonsense. Trump is the one who's delivering tax decreases. What has the Harris-Biden regime done? They've increased taxes 3.5 years. Why are they suddenly going to lower taxes? Are you that stupid? Do you think they're actually going to lower your taxes now? I mean, give me a freaking break. We have track records here. Donald Trump gave an historic tax break to individuals which raised the overall net family worth of families by nearly $9,000 over a 3-year period. We have seen our net worth eviscerated under this regime. They have raised taxes. They have driven up the cost of energy. They have spiked inflation. They have caused global chaos in Afghanistan, in Ukraine, in Gaza, in Myanmar, all around the world. And we're supposed to believe these ads? Well, Donald Trump is raising taxes. He's not raising taxes. He's going to cut taxes. And the country will boom and flourish. And yes, the deficit will spike initially until that growth catches up, and then the tax revenue will be record-setting, just like it was under Reagan, just like it was under George Bush, just like it will be again under Donald Trump. Ridiculous nonsense. Disinformation. It's coming from the regime itself. Well, the great Florida migration is coming undone. All these millions of people moving to Florida from New York, from the East Coast, from California. I said, you'll never find me moving to Florida. It's not appealing. There's no natural beauty or attractiveness. It's brutally hot and humid. It's full of insects and bugs that are annoying. You have to have air conditioning running up your cost. Everything's flat. It's boring. You'll not find me in Florida, ever. And there's too many damn people. Well, if that didn't scare people away, the weather's doing it. Yep. A surplus of housing inventory and dwindling buyer interest are slowing sales. Hurricanes and extreme weather are making it worse. Much of Florida's housing market is cooling off because of a surplus inventory. Surging insurance costs are pricing many homeowners out of the market. Insurance premiums in Florida are up as much as 400% over the past 5 years in certain areas. You know what? I don't have any empathy for you people. My homeowner's insurance has increased by 300%, and I've never made a claim. And my home isn't worth 300% more than it was when I started taking it out 10 years ago. So I've done nothing to drive up the cost. I'm in a place where there's no hurricanes, there's no tornadoes, there's no earthquakes, there's no forest fires. Nobody's had a major disaster here. The only home that's been damaged or lost in the time I've been here is one that was under construction on a street across, down the street here. That one was because they wired it incorrectly, but they put the fire out in the garage. And then they were doing repair in a house up on the corner up here, and the repairs were faulty. While they were doing it, they started a fire. That's it. That's it. Nobody's making insurance claims here. Yet my insurance is up 300% because of these people building McMansions in Florida. Wow. Nope. You are wrong, Michael Holmes. You are wrong. You're wrong. You are attributing the economic growth to Bill Clinton. It happened in spite of Bill Clinton. I've covered this 100 times before. Yes, you're factually correct that 18 million jobs were created during that time frame. That's a factual statement. 8 years, 18 million jobs, true statement. But that's not the job growth attributable to Clinton. Now, there are two major factors that cause, well, three major factors, and then a second wave which caused it to continue. Nothing to do with Clinton at all. The first was, of course, the collusion between the Bush administration and the Federal Reserve to lower interest rates to almost nothing, which made credit widely available. The second was the white-collar recession that took place in the late 1980s, early 1990s, which killed all the dead wood, cut the dead wood out of Eastman Kodak, General Motors, Chrysler, all these major corporations, Caterpillar, and then they became highly profitable and rolled that money back in the economy and created job growth and expanded their business. And then the third and most important of those three factors was, of course, the internet. The emergence of Mosaic in 1994, and then that took off from there. The other thing that contributed to all this, of course, was welfare reform and the so-called balanced budget, which was never balanced, but it fooled enough people that they thought it was balanced. Bill Clinton didn't create any jobs. He didn't create the conditions that created those jobs. He did create conditions when he signed the legislation which did welfare reform and led to the fake surplus. That he did do, but that was on the tail end of that. Most of those jobs had already been created by then, Michael. There's no such thing as trickle down. That's a lie misnomer. That's a slander generated by jealous leftists. There's no such thing as trickle down. There's economics, and then there's voodoo economics of the left. Yep. Voodoo economics of the left. Well, ladies and gentlemen, just when you thought this clown had not been put in prison yet, obviously not, he's publishing books, but Christopher Steele, the disgraced scumbag liar who colluded with the Clinton administration, with the Clinton campaign, and with the Democratic National Committee to create a false dossier slandering Donald John Trump, is out again with a book. Now he's come out of the book. Who's going to believe this crap from this guy? Christopher Steele's home in England, they have a running joke. His wife says it should read, "A failed spy afraid of being sued." Yeah, well, you should be, because he's a failed spy who should be sued. And his new book is called Unredacted, Russia, Trump, and the Fight for Democracy. This piece of human sludge who tried to undermine my nation's election, who tried to undermine the integrity of our nation, and succeeded, hampering and kneecapping the foreign policy and domestic policy of our president because of his scumbag fake dossier, should be in prison for the rest of his life, has the audacity to talk about the fight for democracy. It's not a fight for democracy. If you cared about democracy, you wouldn't have colluded and sold a package of lies to John McCain. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. All right. So let's just discuss a few things here. Michael, glad to see you back. And it's time to school you in economics. Going to help you with that. Okay. First off, leftists want tax breaks for middle class. No, they don't. No, they don't. They don't want tax breaks for middle class. Name one leftist that gave me a tax break. Barack Obama? Nope. Joe Biden? Nope. Bill Clinton? Nope. No tax breaks. What tax breaks did any of them give us? Tax credits are not tax breaks. Tax credits impinge on other taxpayers. Tax cuts are lower tax rates. Not a single Democrat in my lifetime has given me a tax break. So that's a false story. That's a canard. Let's just throw that canard out right away. Leftists don't want tax breaks for the middle class. And they don't want tax breaks for the poor. They want to give them other people's money. That's not a tax break. That's confiscation. Second, how do tax breaks on the rich create economic growth? Well, first off, before I answer that question, let me address, because I know where you're going, Donald Trump's tax breaks were across the board. Every tax bracket got a tax cut. And the people with the largest percentage tax cut were the middle class you're talking about. Donald Trump gave the middle class a tax break. How do you already forget that? How did we forget something happened just 6 years ago? Donald Trump gave middle class Americans a tax break and our wealth soared. Our wealth soared. Prices were lower. The economy was humming. Jobs were created. People invested. So now let's get your last question. How do tax breaks on the rich create economic growth? Well, considering that the top 10% of Americans pay 42% of all taxes, and you would have to arguably consider the top 10% to be wealthy or close to wealthy, they're the ones with the income that invest in the economy. They're the ones that take the risk by investing in the economy. Consumers don't take risk investing in economies. They just buy crap, and most of it comes from China. So how does giving a tax break to people in the middle class generate jobs? It can, but it doesn't. When all their goods and services made in Korea, made in China, made in China, made in China, made in China, made in China. How the hell does that create jobs in America? It doesn't. It takes our hard currency and ships it to China. More money going to China. So driving consumerism doesn't increase jobs or help the middle class. Cutting taxes across the board helps everybody by putting disposable income back in the hands of the taxpayer. Now, if this was attached to a commensurate reduction in federal spending, then it would be a double whammy, because one of the main drags on the economy is the federal government spending $2 trillion it does not have. Spending money that it doesn't have, borrowing money from the credit markets, and stealing the money that's not available for entrepreneurs. So if you reduce taxes, you return money that you've confiscated from everyone across the board. But when you give it to the rich, what do the rich do? Middle class don't people, by and large, invest. How many middle class people do you know that start a bank? Do you know what it takes to start a bank in America? 20 people with $100,000 each. That's it. That's it. That's all it takes. $2 million, you can start a bank. Boom. $2 million, you can start a bank in America. That's all it takes. 20 people with $100,000. Why would you start a bank? Well, banks are highly profitable if they're well managed. Absolutely. And they provide a public service. But how many people sit around with $100,000 in the middle class? Not many. America used to have 43,000 independent banks. We have about 5,500 now. They've all been sucked up by JP Morgan and Bank of America and the big ones out there, Wells Fargo. They've bought them all up over the years because the government's allowed it, which is unconscionable, but it's been allowed. So giving tax breaks to the rich tends to generate investment. Michael says it's an economic fact that rich people do not create jobs and economic growth compared to tax breaks for middle class and lower classes. You're going to say that public education is confiscation now? Dude, you like, okay, I said, Michael, tangerine, apple, grape, kiwi. You are mixing your fruits in a salad that makes no sense. Where are you bringing public education? That has nothing to do with the conversation. Now what you're trying to do, like a typical leftist, Michael, you're trying to obscure the argument by veering off into territory that's not doing it. Now you're talking about how the money is spent and what it's spent for, and then trying to imply that that is something useful. No. First off, public education. I pay for public education. Oh yeah, I'm a debt slave to the local school district. I pay those pricks $5,500 a year. No children in school. I have no say in that. Renters who rent a place for $800 here pay nothing in tax, yet they go to the school. They pay nothing. Ostensibly, the landlord must include the tax in there so that they break even, but they're not paying tax directly. They're renters. Only property owners, only homeowners pay taxes, and business owners. Who are the homeowners? Middle class and wealthy. So what are you talking? Does it make any sense, Michael? Your argument doesn't. Where are you going with this? It makes no sense at all. No sense at all. And it's an economic fact that rich people do not create jobs. Where do you get that nonsense from? I'm sorry. Let me help you out here. Have you ever heard a guy called Larry Ellison? Larry Ellison? Have you? Let's see how many people work for Oracle. Okay. Oracle. Let's get the Wikipedia information on this. Oracle is an American multinational computer company, and it has revenue of $53 billion this year, and has 159,000 people. Oh, rich people don't create jobs. No. Larry Ellison created Oracle out of thin air. $159,000 people. Thomas Watson created IBM. They employ hundreds of thousands of people. Rich people don't create jobs. You ever heard of Elon Musk? Let's take a look at how many people Tesla has. Okay. That guy made his money off of PayPal and another platform. So Tesla, let's see how many employees they have. Oh, they have 140,000. But rich people don't create jobs. Dude, where do you get your nonsense from? A fact that rich people don't create jobs. Rich people don't create jobs. J.P. Morgan, Andrew Carnegie. Not only did Andrew Carnegie create millions of jobs and fuel the Industrial Revolution in America and the economic growth of America through his steel mills, but then he donated his entire fortune and created libraries and museums and schools and universities all over the country. Cornelius Vanderbilt, and the railroads. Oh my goodness. Rich people don't create jobs. That's funny. We must tax people so that we can create opportunities and economic growth. Oh, okay. Now, Michael, now I know you're not real. You're just being funny now. You're just looking for attention here. You're just looking for a reaction. Must tax people. Taxing people doesn't create opportunities. Taxing people doesn't create growth. Taxation is a brake on growth. Well, let me just put this in perspective for you. I'm middle class. And today, barely middle class because of Joe Biden's inflation. If I actually had a reassessment of what it costs to be middle class, I'll bet you I'm slipping down. So, every penny that I make on YouTube is subject to 18% taxation because I'm self-employed, for Social Security, and for Medicare. I'm paying for other people's medical care. I'm not even getting it. I pay 8% or 6% of my income goes to pay for other people's medical care. Why am I paying for the medical care for them? So they'll pay for mine when I'm older? 18%. I pay 28% to the federal government in the middle class tax bracket that I'm in. That's 28, 38, 44. And then, is that right? 44. And then I have to pay the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania 3% of my income. That's 47%. So every $100 that I supposedly make, I'm getting $53. You need to tax me more? Let me tell you something. If I paid $10 tax, which is fair, on that $100, then I have a lot more money to invest, and I would invest it. Michael, you know what you're talking about, man. High earners must pay tax so the country can prosper. Why do high earners who are successful have to pay for people who are unsuccessful? Meant the tax breaks rich do not create jobs as much as the poor. That's simply factually untrue. You're just making this stuff up. This government is responsible for job losses. They suck up a country that destroyed so many jobs. Yeah, you're talking about South Africa now. Andre, how's it going to go? Thanks for being here. Arc Precision. How do we invest in education, build infrastructure, and fund the military? Well, there are lots of ways to invest in education. The private sector, through public education. How do you build infrastructure? Through the private sector, through the public sector. And fund the military through the public sector. You fund education in this country largely through property taxes. I don't agree with the system, but that's how they do it. Build infrastructure? Well, you put taxation on those who use the infrastructure. So if you use roads and highways, you pay taxes on fuel, which is supposedly used to rebuild the roads and to rebuild the bridges. That's what's supposed to happen. And as far as the funding of the military, well, that is a requirement. It's actually in the Constitution. That's a prima facie responsibility of the government according to our Constitution, and you must provide for the common defense. It's required. Therefore, there must be some taxation or revenue to the government to provide for the common defense. That's accepted by left and right. It's not a left or right issue. It is accepted by everybody. So that's how you do it, Michael. Pablo Charlie has a huge, you're right. They have a huge military budget in Saudi Arabia, and they don't pay taxes. You're correct. They don't have high tax, I should say, yeah. I should get my pay tax and do a weekend drive once a month. Arc Precision, yeah, toll roads are one way. But when toll roads are owned by private corporations, then you get something for them. The Pennsylvania Turnpike is a disgrace. The Pennsylvania Turnpike is a century old, and it's been collecting tolls from Pennsylvanians and others for a century. It was long ago paid for, and it was supposed to no longer be a toll road. But they continue to take money out of us. And now they don't even employ people. The Pennsylvania Turnpike Commission, they don't even employ people anymore. They used to have toll booth collectors. Now it's all done by license plate. Yep. So, anyway. Yep. So, Michael, dude, you don't understand economics. You don't understand economics. So, what happens? Let me tell you what happens, okay? So, George Bush said, no new taxes. Read my lips. No new taxes. And what did he do? They imposed the luxury tax. What did the luxury tax do? Well, the luxury tax put a huge tariff on top of certain goods and services, like luxury boats and yachts. So what did that do? Rich people just quit buying luxury boats and yachts. What did it do to the boat manufacturers? It eviscerated the luxury yacht manufacturing and boat business in America. Just destroyed it. And then it was picked up by overseas competition. And what happened to those jobs? Gone forever. Because George Bush imposed a tax on luxury goods to make the wealthy pay their fair share. If the wealthy have lots of money and they invest it or they spend it, that's good. That's good. Pablo Charlie says Germany, of course. Germany what? That's completely out of context. Yeah, I don't get nothing from my government either. I mean, I get censorship, suppression, threats. Yeah, no, it's unbelievable. Yep. Rich people don't create jobs. Oh, they went to Germany. Thank you, Pablo Charlie. Yeah, but they just eviscerated our luxury boat business. Just destroyed it. Destroyed it. Sugar tax, yeah. Well, you think you're paying something here, Hudstein Count. We pay 3 times the global price for sugar in this country because of subsidies to cane sugar growers in Florida and beet sugar growers in Louisiana. Why should tax money meant for infrastructure, job creation, education, domestic safety be used to fund foreign wars and dictators? Well, in the aggregate, it shouldn't be used to fund those people, but in reality, the world is a dangerous place, and danger comes to your shores. Not to mention, it's in our interest that other countries are prosperous and successful for stability and for marketplaces for our goods and services. The United States relies on, what, 18% of our economy or 30%? Let me take a look. U.S. economy, let me check percentage trade. Okay. 27%. United States, its GDP is made up of imports and exports that equal 27.36% of its economy. Globally, that is 63%. Most countries around the world would die without foreign trade. The United States would suffer, but we wouldn't die. 27% of our goods and services are imports and exports. Yep. So let's see how that looks historically. I got back to 1960 here. Okay. Come on, load the chart. Chart's not loading. That's odd. Okay, anyway, yeah, so 27%. Germany is much more dependent on foreign trade. Rich people create jobs, but I meant tax break for the ultra-wealthy does not stimulate economic growth the same way as lower classes. Also with people buying local and interstation. Well, Michael, okay, well, who here is making the argument that tax breaks for the ultra-rich? And you haven't even defined what ultra-rich is. I didn't make that argument. You came here and started making the claim that, tax breaks for the rich don't create jobs, which I've disproven, and now you admit I'm correct. So who is arguing that tax breaks for the ultra-wealthy? I even went to the point of going even further, talking about, because the Democrats are lying about Donald Trump. Donald Trump is going to raise taxes on the middle class. It's a lie. It's a lie. Donald Trump brought tax relief. Not a single Democrat in my entire life. I have suffered through, in my lifetime, as a baby, Lyndon Baines Johnson, who destroyed our country, Richard Nixon, Gerald Ford, Jimmy Carter. So let's start with Carter as a young adult maturing. Jimmy Carter, Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, and Joe Biden. I've had to deal with 4 Democratic presidents. Not a single one of them has ever cut my taxes. Reagan cut my taxes. Bush didn't cut my taxes. Bush cut my taxes. And Trump cut my taxes. 4 Republicans cut my taxes out of 5. 0 out of 4 Democrats have cut my taxes. Who said Aliko Dangote doesn't create jobs? What are you talking about, Pablo Charlie? Where does that come from? Yeah. Well, I don't agree with buying local if I can get better product and better quality from somewhere else. I'll buy local as much as I can. Taxes are not a bad thing if you get a lot out of those taxes, like healthcare, education, job programs, public infrastructure, etc. No, I disagree. Healthcare should not be paid for by taxes. That is morally bankrupt. That's a personal responsibility. That should be done in the private sector. Infrastructure, sure. Jobs programs, no. The government's job isn't to create jobs. That's a joke. That's so morally depressed. Look, I got out of the Army in 1987, went back to university. Now, the federal law requires that every state give the minimum without any contributions from the employer, because normally for unemployment insurance, your employer kicks into it, and sometimes some of it comes out of your pay as well, involuntarily in many states. And it goes into an unemployment insurance fund, and then you get a portion of your pay when you're unemployed for a period of time. Military, under federal law, are guaranteed a minimum payment of unemployment from whatever state they live in or territory when they leave active service. You go register and you get it. So I was entitled to that. It's an entitlement. But my employer, the Army, never paid in anything to the state of Ohio. So I got out of the Army in April of 1987, and late April. So first week of May, when I got back to Ohio, I went into Logan, Ohio. I went to the job center, which is where you register for unemployment, and I felt like a dreg of society. I went in there, I filled out the paperwork. It's very uncomfortable. Then I saw what they're going to pay me. It was a joke. It was a joke, an absolute joke. The amount of money I was getting was nothing. And then I was required to go and find so many employers and ask if I could get a job. It didn't matter whether it was in my skill set or whether it met my income level previously. Just had to find a job. So if you don't actively seek jobs, then they can turn you away. They cut you off. I walked in. I filled out the paperwork. I never walked back to that office ever again. Within a week, I had a job as a disc jockey at a radio station, WMPA, Middleport, Palmer, Ohio. Between working as a disc jockey at a radio station, making minimum wage, $3.35 an hour, in the National Guard, doing MUTAs, those are mutual unit training assemblies. In other words, you meet on a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and you get paid for that. Once a month for that. The $100 a month I got tax exempt by enrolling in ROTC at university, and my veterans benefits, which I put the money into and then got money put on top of by the Veterans Administration. All that together, I made more money going to university than I did as a sergeant on active duty in the Army. Never collected a penny of unemployment. I have never taken a handout in my entire life. Never taken a unemployment check, and never will. Never will. Now, it's there to help people, and that's fine if they take it, but I will never take it. It's demeaning. It's not the role of government to provide jobs. That's ridiculous. The same people that can't show up for Hurricane Helene are supposed to be the people who create jobs for us. The same people who can't show up for Hurricane Helene are the ones organizing our health care. No, I don't think so. America's success because of wealthy. Well, Yes and no, Ants. America's a success. Lots of countries have wealth. Europeans have lots of wealthy people. America's successful because of freedom and liberty. And that's what gets missed in all the conversations. The freedom to succeed, the freedom to fail. Entrepreneurialism. I mean, this is because of Americans. Mobile telephony. This is because of Americans, because of the ingenuity of Americans. Now, I'm not talking about Indian immigrants. I'm talking about Americans who were here, created these things. The internet, this webcam, these microphones. This is all the ingenuity of America. The railroads, computer processing, mainframes, all of this. Because people have liberty and freedom. They can express themselves. They can take chances. And America is also successful because we don't live off the sins of the father. This garbage in South Africa, blaming South Africans born after the end of apartheid for historically disadvantaged, is horse manure. If you're a white kid who's 15 years old, you have nothing to do with apartheid. And you're not profiting from it. So why should you be punished for it? This is what Europeans do. This is what Asians do in many countries in Asia. Not all, but many. You are what your forebears were. That's an archaic concept. In America, anybody can become anything. I mean, look at Oprah Winfrey. A vile, repulsive human being became a wildly popular actress and incredibly wealthy, so she could spew her hatred. Look at Rosie O'Donnell, a physically repulsive, annoying reprobate, incredibly wealthy. Ricky Lake, incredibly wealthy. These are nobodies who became incredibly wealthy. Anybody can become anything. Those are reasons why America is successful. And when America began to stagnate, it's when our tax rates became onerous. It was Jack Kennedy in the early 1960s who took our top tax rate down from 89%. Yeah, 89%. Yeah, a Democrat. Strange enough. Do I think money is free speech when it comes to donation to political campaigns? Yes, it is. Because it's the mechanism that allows for speech. Absolutely, I agree 100%. And that's why I have a problem with McCain-Feingold. See, because that system set up an even more corrupt system than what people claim was there. When individuals could give millions of dollars, like say Elon Musk could give $1 billion to Donald Trump. He can't do that legally. But let's say he could do it under the old system. They say, well, that's not fair because he has the means. Well, what you have now are political action groups who take donations from people and raise money, and then they give the money. And they run false ads against people, both sides of the aisle. And so it's a real problem. So McCain-Feingold skewed, it unconstitutionally limited my free speech, limiting me to $2,500 per year in donations to a political campaign. Trust me, nobody's getting $2,500 from me. I've only ever once donated to a political campaign, once. I only did it once. And that was to get rid of Barack Obama. And it didn't work. Yep. Services like electricity and water were excellent and consistent. There was zero help for tertiary, but because it was not subsidized, many folk didn't attend tech school. Well, the bottom line with that sort of thing is that I have electricity. It comes from a private corporation. It was not subsidized, and it was functioning just fine before Joe Biden's tariff increases as a consequence of the inflation that he spiked. Before that, it was reasonable, affordable. It was reliable. It's reliable. And it's not state-owned. It's privately run. And then the other piece you said there about education, I've said it before. When I went to university, I got a full ride financially. I qualified for university based on my marks in school. I applied for university. I got accepted, but I didn't have the money. So I applied for financial aid, and based on need, not based on my skin pigmentation, not based on my genitalia, my danglers hanging down there. I didn't get the money based on that. I didn't get the money based on white privilege or black privilege. I got the money based on need. Didn't matter whether it was white, black, handicapped, black, brown, blue, green, gay, straight. None of that mattered. What mattered is I was an American citizen who had qualified to university. And out of the fairness of American hearts, we provide money through taxation and through grants to people who qualify who couldn't otherwise financially go to school. Now, the amount of money I got was limited, which meant I wasn't going to go to Harvard. I wasn't going to go to Yale or Bucknell because I couldn't afford that. But the money I got was enough to attend a state institution and get an education at university. Simple as that. But now, money is reserved for people based on their skin pigmentation. Seats are reserved in universities based on their gender identification, based on their ethnic origin. This is wrong. This is wrong. All right, Charles, I've talked about this before. There aren't many differences between the National Party and the ANC other than competency. That's the main difference. Both parties love patronage. The ANC favors its black supremacist cater crowd, and the Democratic or the National Party favored the Afrikaans-speaking population. Statement of fact. The difference is that by and large, not entirely, but by and large, the National Party may have extended patronage to a class of people, but it hired competent people who were from that group. The ANC just hires anybody that's loyal. They don't have to be competent. That's the difference. ESCOM functioned because it was run like a corporation, and it wasn't stuffed full of patrons hires on its board, amongst its directors. It wasn't used as a wealth vehicle to enrich black cadres, which is what it's been used for. That's why ESCOM delivered before and why it can't deliver now. In 2000, 6 years after things changed, ESCOM was voted the best public utility in the world. And here we are now. Elon Musk paid $14 billion in taxes, income tax, in 1 year. When he sold Tesla stock, $40 billion in Tesla stock, he paid $14 billion in personal income tax from that alone. No, every single American in history, no one's ever paid that much money. No one's ever paid that much money in a single year, let alone ever in their lifetimes. U.S. university system is BS. How can tertiary education be so expensive? Sure, there are useless degrees, but if you're studying something... Okay, well, first off, Michael, U.S. university system is BS. I mean, first off, what kind of argument is that? All right? How can tertiary education be so expensive? Well, it's very simple. $180,000, $280,000, $300,000 a year for diversity experts forced to be hired by universities, overspending on pet projects, all kinds of centers created for the advancement of historically disadvantaged people. All that plays a role. Overpaying university professors. Let me see what a university professor makes at Harvard. Okay, Harvard. Let's go an associate professor. Harvard associate professor salary. The average salary for an associate professor at Harvard University is $169,000 to $183,000 per year. That's why Harvard costs so much. Okay, so how many professors? Okay, how many PROFE work at Harvard? 2,400. Now, a lot of them make more than it. That's an average salary. So let's just go with 180,000. We'll say that $180,000 per professor. Now, this is before benefits, before medical insurance, unemployment insurance, health care, dental, all those other things that are in there that cost the employer money. So 2,400 professors, okay, times $185,000 a year in salary alone. That's $444 million a year just for salaries for professors, okay? Now, how many students enrolled? At Harvard, okay? 22,900, okay? Now, divided by 23,000, we'll say, okay? The salaries alone for the professors at Harvard cost each student $19,304. Times 19, Michael, is 366,782 Rand per year per student, just to pay the salaries. Never mind the electricity, never mind the research grants, never mind the security and policing, never mind the facility maintenance, never mind all of the other costs, the administrative costs. It costs 366,000 Rand per year per student to pay for the salaries alone. Mark, you make it free? How do you make it free? Who pays for it? Who pays for it? But I'm waiting. How you make it free? Who pays for it? Mark, you've jumped into the Michael conversation. How do you make tertiary education free? How's it free? Nothing is free in life, folks. Nothing is free. Nothing is free. You're getting a free broadcast and incredible analysis and commentary from me, but it's not free. It's not free. It comes at great personal cost and sacrifice to me. All the jobs I've turned down that I can be making tons of money to do this, to make a difference in the world, you're not even getting it for free. You had to pay for your mobile or your PC. That costs money. There's underlying infrastructure costs. You're paying for your data and or your connection. And most importantly, what are you sacrificing? The most important thing we all sacrifice, our time. There is a cost to everything. No such thing as free lunch. Mark, there's no such thing as free tertiary education. Now, you may let people go to school at no cost to them, but guess who's paying for it? Now, why should, okay, let me read your comment again. I'm sorry, Mark. I didn't finish the sentence. My apologies, Mark. It seemed out of character for you. Yeah, you're just inviting corruption. Sorry, Mark. My humblest apologies. I got it carried away. I thought that was from Michael first because it's the same color. Both say an M. I didn't even see Mark until after I read the initial portion. That's why I cut myself off. My apologies to Mark Sayers. It didn't make any sense coming from him. Anyway, but if you, in my defense, it says M, it's brown. M, it's brown. Michael, Mark, it starts off the same. Anyway, so my apologies, Mark. So it does invite corruption, but there's no such thing as a free lunch. No such thing. So Michael says our system is BS. Really? I'd argue I'm pretty well educated. And you're going to say, yeah, but you went to university in the 80s. Yeah, and in the 90s, and the 2000s, the 2010s, and the 2020s. Every single decade since I was 17, I've been enrolled at university. Every single thing. Every single decade. I've been enrolled at university. So I think arguably I have the best case to make to anybody in this conversation about the efficacy of the U.S. university system. Having been a student at undergraduate and postgraduate over the course of the 80s, the 90s, the aughts, the teens, and the 20s, 5 decades I've attended university courses in this country, here and abroad. And I've taught undergraduate and postgraduate. I think I'm well versed in understanding how university education works and how it should work. So, saying it's BS. Now, look, I do think university education in America is BS at this stage. Unless you go to a place like Hillsdale or Liberty, our universities become anti-Semitic, anti-Christian, anti-white, anti-male, festering cesspools of indoctrination for political leftists, by and large. And it's infiltrated every aspect, even civil engineering. You got this nonsense going on now. So I agree, there are some BS going on in universities, but not for the reasons you're saying, Michael. If you're studying economically important things, you should get funding. No, you shouldn't. You shouldn't get funding. No one deserves funding to go to university. See, that's the thing. That's the thing. Well, I tell you I'll go, remind me to come back to inflation in education. I'll come back to that in a moment. But university education is a privilege. Less than 1% of human beings around. Why do South Africans get so, educate? Why are you so obsessed with university education? You need plumbers, pipe fitters, longshoremen, coal miners, diamond miners, citrus tree growers, Spurs employees, white collar workers, accountants, bankers. You need all these people. None of those fields I just talked about requires anybody to go to university. None. And all can be well paying, except maybe the citrus grower. So why is the obsession with education? Because the ANC thinks it's important. Why? Because they didn't have any education. They were so embarrassed when they came to the table. Only people like Thabo and Mbeki had degrees. But people like Jacob Zuma were functionally illiterate. So they're impressed by fancy degrees like so many people in Africa. Ooh, I'm real now. I have fancy degrees. Look at the gentleman who I did the video on this morning, the video on this morning, Ungumzulu. 7 degrees. Yet the guy doesn't even know the definition of the word majority. The African National Congress, with 159 members of parliament after the May elections, had a majority. No, they don't have a majority. They have a plurality. It's basic English. Now, I'll accept that his first language is Zulu and not English. But with 7 degrees and he teaches political science in English, he should be functionally literate in English. And it's not a simple mistake. It's not like, well, I misspoke. I got somebody's name wrong or earlier when I got Michael and Mark confused. That's a simple mistake. We can correct that. But in an op-ed in which you're attacking the Democratic Alliance, you got to be honest as a political scientist, saying that Helen Zille is playing games. When as a political scientist, you should know that she's just doing politics. That's retail politics. And saying that ANC won a majority, they didn't win a majority, dingbat. A majority is 201 seats in Parliament. Not 200, not 199, and certainly not 159. That's a plurality. All right. No one needs to fund artisans. Why do you fund artisans? That's something someone wants to do. They do it on their own. All right, so back to the question. Faraday Schultz says, and now that, New Bella, but yeah. Okay, let me get to the comment that Michael put up there. Michael put another comment. Oh, how do we bring down Harvard fees? Okay, let me tell you what's going on in education. This is the secret no one wants to talk about. Inflation in education. I did this, 10 years ago, because I was so pissed off and frustrated by this. Yeah, it was about 10 years ago. I sat down and I took, because you can go online and you can find a website and it'll take the inflation in whatever country in, and it will calculate the current value of something based on what it was at a certain point. So I took what it cost me to go for tuition to attend Ohio University per quarter and per year, which was less than $1,500 a year back in the 1980s. And even for inflation-adjusted dollars, that only came out to about $4,500 because it's 3 times as much, okay? Stick with me. At the time I did this 6 or 10 years ago, the tuition at Ohio University was in excess of $12,000 a year. So it was more than double, almost 3 times what I had paid, even with inflation. So if you go back 30 years when I got my education, it would have cost me 3 times as much then as it did, and I couldn't afford it. The reason for the inflation is because the federal government. Yeah, the federal government. Do you know why? Because the federal government expanded the federal student loan program. First off, they made more people eligible. The federal student loan program and the Pell Grant were supposed to be based on financial need. Once universities saw that they could raise prices every year because more people were qualifying for federal assistance and the taxpayer would bear the brunt, then they raised prices. And they raised prices. And the federal government raised the amount of money given out, handed out at taxpayer expense. And suddenly, education became one of the biggest drivers of inflation in this country. And we are paying 3 times as much for the same education that I got 30 years later in inflation-adjusted dollars. In actual dollars, $12,000 10 years ago versus the $1,500 I paid before. But I'm honest, I looked at the inflation-adjusted, the same value for the dollar. If it wasn't for inflation, it would be 10 times as much in 30 years. That's not sustainable. And that's driven by the federal government. Now, the federal government exacerbated this program under Barack Obama by stealing the federal student loan program. Yeah, they stole the federal student loan program. And they made student loans available to everybody. You want a loan? Now you get one. Doesn't matter whether you have financial need. And what did that do? When more people can borrow the money, and it's not coming from banks, it's coming from the taxpayer, and they're printing money, driving up inflation, which, of course, just feeds the whole thing. So if you want prices to come down at Harvard, well, you need to stop letting university professors unionize and drive up salaries. You need to stop letting the federal government steal student loans and return that program to people in financial need, and everyone else misses out. There you go. Case solved. Well, I don't really care about Charlie Kirk. He's an asshat. He's an arrogant asshat. But yeah, you're right. He's rich and wealthy without a college degree. That's true. How do we fund artisans? I'm not going to fund artisans. You know how you fund artisans? You buy their art. I have art in my house. Yep. I have some that was given to me by people who are artists. I have other art that I bought. Not much, but yeah. Vocational college near here, it trains apprentices from companies that are self-enrolled and it's oversubscribed. Does a great job. Well, you want to know another place that's oversubscribed? And it's a little bit pricey, but it's affordable in South Africa, and that is Soltech. Soltech. Let's take a look at tuition for Soltech and see what it says it is. Soltech. Soltech fees 2024. Okay. All right. Was it going to tell me? I don't think it's telling me. Let's see if it says tuition. Fees doesn't come up. Soltech tuition fees 2024. AI is coming up here now. Won't tell me. I knew that figure when I interviewed those guys there. They told me what it cost, but a lot of their students don't have the money, so they're able to get loans that are financed by people to support the institution. Yeah, vocational schools are important, but everyone gets wrapped around the we need education. Only a small percentage of human beings. Look, in America, somewhere in the order of 25%, 28% of Americans are university graduates, and over a third have gone to university at some point. But there's nothing wrong with having a trade. Listen, people who work in HVAC. That's the installation of electricity. in America. Plumbers, they make hundreds of thousands of dollars per year. Many of them have their own businesses, and they hire people to work for them, and they do very well. Yeah, they don't have to go to university. They can go to tech school. There's Soltech. Thank you for that, Hendo. That's a fantastic option. Soltech does amazing work, and it trains people, and they're in demand. They gave me the figures. Go watch one of my videos on Soltech, the interview with, is it Vanna Uman? No, I think it's a guy from Solidarity. But anyway, the gentleman who I interviewed, it's amazing. No one leaves here without a job. They're in demand because white South Africans are discriminated against, and most of their students are white. There are some colored students there. I don't know if many blacks have shown up, but because you have to speak Afrikaans. But we have to study technology and society in our electoral engineering course back in the 80s. Our lecturer for this was a Marxist. Yeah, but you didn't become a Marxist as a consequence, did you, Keith? And that goes back to my argument that I made. When I was in university as an undergraduate the second time, when I went back and I went through school in 87, 88, in 1987, I had a leftist, far left, a graduate student who was finishing his PhD, and he taught my, it was like a world history class, something like that. The class had like 100 students in it. It was huge. And he told us up front, he said, listen, my political views are left to center, just so you know that. I try not to affect what we're doing here. If you feel it does, then just come tell me and we can discuss it. And he never did. He never pushed his warped worldview onto me or any of the students. He graded our papers fairly, as long as we did a good job, and that's how it was. But that's not how it is today. That's not how it is today. Yep. That is not how it is today. Many Arabs from Gulf nations went to UK and US for education. Oh, I know, Pablo. That's how we got Ilhan Omar. Not Ilhan Omar. That's how we got Rashida Tlaib. We got Rashida Tlaib because Palestinians were allowed to flood into this country in the 1970s and 80s and attend a university, as were Iranians. We had tons of Iranians. Yep, we had tons of Iranians here. In fact, I had an Iranian student who came in 79 or 78. And in 82, when I was a student there, he was trying to stay in the country and not be forced to go back to Iran because he thought he'd be killed. I don't know if he ever got refugee status, but when I was a freshman, he was an upperclassman that I met there. We had tons of Iranians, and tons of Palestinians. And as a consequence, we allowed Palestinians to come here and be students, and then they never left. They were allowed to stay, and then they produce offspring like Rashida Tlaib, who's a vile human being. Yep, and is a hateful shrew, a hateful shrew. Yep, and so that's what we get. We get rewarded by letting people who come in this country and then perpetuate their warped worldviews instead of becoming part of our society. Rashida Tlaib and her parents should go to Palestine and just leave here. That's what they should do. Did Jimmy Carter destroy Iran? No, Michael Holmes, he did not. Jimmy Carter's response to the hostage situation was inept, but Jimmy Carter did not destroy Iran. Iran was overtaken by events that were beyond Jimmy Carter's control, and as a consequence of things happening in the 1970s. The Shah was overthrown. The problem is that the French allowed the Ayatollah Khomeini to get refuge in France when he should have been put in prison. Yep. Freddie Schultz says, yes, we all studied tech since the 90s, but no more jobs out there. Only when you work for yourself or have to build your own business. You're talking about in South Africa because of racism. Yeah, that's probably true. Not the case here in America, although it's rapidly becoming the case here in America. If you want a government job, unless you're, you have the right genitalia or you walk around with purple hair proclaiming you have 17 pronouns and your spirit animal is a piece of wood, your chance of getting employed are diminishing by the day. So, no, I'm not dyeing my hair purple and claiming that my spirit animal is a tree. Not going to happen. Not going to happen. Yep. Not going to happen. So anyway, yeah, that's life in the crazy lane. Wow, my goodness, folks, we have gone for an hour and 47 minutes. We've just been riffing here, talking. Michael asked some very good questions, but some strange positions. Michael, are you still there? Michael Holmes? Oh, there he is. Yeah, he just asked me the question about Jimmy Carter. Michael, I don't know where you get your worldviews on economics, brother, but they're not correct. They're not correct. Do the research. You don't have to believe me. Just do the research. And don't do the research by reading news articles. Actually go and look this stuff up. Read things like read Adam Smith's The Wealth of Nations. Read David Ricardo on what he said about capitalism. Capitalism gets blamed for all kinds of things, but what they fail to tell you is that the argument they always make for socialism is, oh, it just hasn't been done properly. But if you tell people the truth about capitalism, we see mercantilism often falsely called capitalism, like the Dutch and East India Company. That's not capitalism. That's mercantilism. We see them make excuses for the Soviet Union, for Venezuela, for North Korea, for all the failures in the socialist world. East Germany. We say, well, it's just never been done right. But if you point out that we rarely have true capitalism, how can you blame capitalism for things? Like in America, we don't have true capitalism. We have a capital-focused market, but we don't have capitalism. If we had capitalism, then the federal government would have no such thing as Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. They wouldn't be in place, obscuring and distorting the home mortgage industry. You wouldn't have requirements by the federal government to do this, do that, and the other. You wouldn't have tariffs in place. That's not capitalism. And then you always get this laissez-faire capitalism. Well, capitalism by definition is laissez-faire. It's minimal intrusion by the government. The government is not there to pick and choose winners, although that's what the federal government does. The fact that we subsidize maize to make ethanol, a highly dangerous substance which damages the engines of our cars and only gets about 105% return on investment for the energy consumed, the energy produced, that's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. All you have to do is dig up petroleum, refine it, and you get 44%, 38 to 44% return on energy. That's far better than doing the same thing and then creating ethanol after you consider the fact that we take and create monoculture in the Midwest, growing maize everywhere, and then filling it full of phosphates and fertilizers, most of which gets washed off down into the Mississippi and Missouri rivers, down to the Gulf Coast, creating algae blooms and killing sea life in the Gulf of Mexico. Pesticides, fertilizer. We don't need to grow all that stuff to make ethanol. That's ridiculous. Why are we subsidizing sugar production in this country? We wind up with high fructose corn syrup, which comes from maize, which is subsidized by the federal government. Why are we subsidizing solar panels? If solar panels are so good and so effective and so wonderful for the planet, then people will buy them and they will be affordable. And the more sold, the cheaper the price. Except they're not. They're not any of those things. I'm a leftist and a Keynesian economic theory guy. I would maybe read some Austrian economics people like your American inflation guy. Gotcha. Well, read Francis Hayek. So I have that here on the shelf. I have it in the house. Francis Hayek, The Road to Serfdom. You should read that. Yeah, leftism doesn't work, brother. Doesn't work. Capitalism does work. And accepting tenets of capitalism is what has allowed countries to flourish. The Chinese communist, by accepting private ownership, which is a key tenet, property rights of capitalism, flourished. But they also did it with intellectual property theft and tariffs and protectionism and trademark violations. Yeah. And mercantilism. China is not a capitalist society. It's not a communist society. Politically, it's communist. Economically, it's a mercantilist state. It's the Dutch of the 21st century. It's the British of the 21st century, the British of the 14th century, the Portuguese. That's what China is today. A rapacious, mercantilist state. Yep, high taxes on sugar made many farms closing in South Africa. Yep. Yeah, no, it's so because sugar is so expensive and it's so flexible, people use high fructose corn syrup. What does high fructose corn syrup do? People complain about the danger of sugar. You want to know what's dangerous for you? What's unhealthy for you? You think sugar, which is a natural product, is unhealthy for you? What do you think high fructose corn syrup is? That is a processed sweetener that is very unhealthy for you. And it's in our soft drinks, it's in our food, it's in everything. Why? Because Congress has subsidized the sugar industry and made sugar too expensive. I go back to when I was a dairy farmer. We had 17 acres, which is nothing. That's just a couple hectares. And we had dairy cows. We let them graze during the day. We gave them grain when they came in to get milked in the morning and evening. And that's about it. Except the wintertime, we might give them hay and a little bit of grain, mix a little bit in there if they had their diet. And we produced milk and we sold milk for $1.25, $1.50, $1.75 a gallon max. Meanwhile, at the Kroger's supermarket, if you bought a gallon of milk, it was $2.79, $3.69 in the same time frame. And they were getting subsidies from the federal government. Rainier? Thank you for your 39 months. Nothing life is for free, not even death. Oh, yeah, death costs you money. Yep. Yeah, the military is a good way to learn a trade. You can learn to be a plumber, an electrician, an engineer, all kinds of things. Yeah, communism does kill innovation because there's no incentive to do so. Yeah, I mean, so the Soviets demanded that the Ukrainians produce more grain. Well, they didn't give more fertilizer. They didn't produce more rain. They didn't give them any better farming equipment. They were actually doing stuff, a lot of them by hand and with freaking, horse-drawn stuff in the 1930s. And so when they set unrealistic goals, you have to produce this many tons of grain. When they didn't produce it, they went and confiscated their food stores. And millions of Ukrainians starved to death in the Holodomor. Crimes against humanity. There was no incentive. If they create incentives instead of disincentives, then Ukrainian peasants could have probably produced more grain. Yep. And the sad part is that the Soviets didn't even need all that grain. It was just a way of breaking the back of resistance. Making bricks with no straw. Exactly. That doesn't work very well. Socialism is a sad, depressive, dictatorial system. It is. It is. It is. When people embrace capitalism fully, not half-heartedly, everyone prospers. That's another thing. While we're on here, Michael, if you're still here, Michael Holmes, we often hear about wealth disparity, the Gini coefficient, how unequal societies are. The United States, Brazil, South Africa, Botswana, China. These are countries with wide wealth disparity. The U.S. not so much. It's down in the 30th rank, 36 or 38th. But those other countries right near the top. And the most unequal societies in all the world are in Africa. And the argument is, well, they're unequal because of wealth disparity. Well, that's a misnomer. It doesn't cost the same thing to live in Maun in Botswana as it does to live the same standard of living in Manhattan. Okay? It doesn't cost the same thing to live in rural West Virginia as it does to live in Los Angeles. So those are kind of misnomers. And here's the thing. Wealth disparity doesn't matter as long as people meet their basic needs and there's an opportunity for upward mobility. If you have the ability to move up based on your merit, your hard work, your thrift, your entrepreneurialism, your drive, then there's nothing wrong with the system. And America had a system like that before the racists came in and skewed the system in the last 12 years. Now, America doesn't have a system like that by and large. Corporations have been taken over by DEI crowd. The woke crowd has taken over government. FEMA on their website is talking about catastrophe equity. What the hell is catastrophe equity? We see this. I saw this video. It was presented on television of a Zoom session of these idiots from FEMA and Department of Homeland Security talking to this transgender guy about people who are from the LGBTQ plus community are traditionally oppressed. They're already suffering. When this catastrophe comes along, it's just that much worse. It's just that much worse. Who's going to take care of them? Who's going to help them? They're trans. They're gay. People hate them. What a bunch of manure. What a load of horse manure. What a load of horse manure. So they're going to give equity. In other words, they're going to exclude the people who are dying and starving because they're not trans, because they're not brown, because they're not women. Catastrophe equity? What the hell is that? There's a demonic triangle with slaves taking to grow sugar to make alcohol, producing slavery, obesity, alcoholism. Yeah, Light Rain, there's a lot of truth to that. The triangle trade was not a good thing. Mark says you're a product. The better you apply yourself and sell yourself, the more you'll get for yourself. Yeah, in a fair system. Federal Immigrant Management Agency. Ooh, Michael, that's what we're going to have to start calling FEMA. Yep. FEMA LGBTQ Brigade at Equity. Can someone please explain this? Yeah, exactly. Michael says apartheid colonialism chose to destroy private property rights in South Africans, also destroyed small businesses and agriculture of people of color. Michael, what you say has a lot of truth to it. Colonialism didn't destroy property rights. That's nonsense. There was no such thing as property rights. Name for me one group in South Africa that had land tenure and legal title to land before Europeans arrived. Just tell me. Who owned land individually before Europeans arrived? The Nguni-speaking peoples? No. They were largely pastoralist, and they moved from place to place, eating up all the grass and the forage and moving on to the next place until there were so many of them that they began to amalgamate, like the Zulu and the Xhosa. But there was no property rights as such under colonialism until Europeans arrived with the concept of property rights. So there was no private property. Shaka didn't allow private property. Mzilikazi didn't allow private property. So apartheid certainly had an impact on property rights. But maybe to your surprise, Michael, those property rights were not just people of color who lost their property rights, but also white South Africans. In the 1980s, 3.5 million black South Africans were relocated. And that's in a country of 34 million people. So that's 10% of the population that were black. Not 10% of the black population, but 10% of the population that were black were forcibly moved from one place to another in South Africa during the 1980s. But that also involved the movement of whites, in particular from the old Transvaal in Northwest. Farms were confiscated from farmers who had been there for a century plus or longer, and that land was turned over to Bophuthatswana. Less so the case for Ciskei and Transkei, but certainly the case. Venda was also the case. And those farmers were relocated and given farms in KZN, for example. So they were treated better than black and brown, but they were also dislocated and their property rights were abrogated. So, yes, it's historical fact that is the case. Destroyed small businesses and agriculture, people of color. That's actually, that's a debatable point here. How many people of agriculture, give me the numbers, were actually engaged in agriculture? And explain to me what agriculture. Subsistence agriculture and who? There were no major groupings of people of color engaged in agriculture, owning land, doing commercial agriculture under apartheid. Just didn't happen. Didn't happen. It's the case today. There are some there, but that wasn't the case then. You can say that people were pushed off of land that was available for agriculture, or people were subsisting on, but they weren't. Subsistence agriculture is not agriculture. It's getting by. That's not agriculture. Agriculture is mass production of goods. Yep. Yeah, and Michael, you have to get beyond yourself, this people of color. Everyone suffered under apartheid. Even white people and Indians and colored suffered under apartheid, just to varying degrees. Some suffered more than others. There were people who got many benefits. 350 rand, 1 quarter steamed crab, says African Idiot. Actually, at a dozen for, that would give me 2 crabs, roughly. Joe Rafferty says, interesting, people moving in today, we have chaos. Pablo says, people need to stop with the rhetoric that colonialism, imperialism is all bad. Do people not know about the story of Brunei and the British? Look, there's plenty of stories of colonialism bad. You know, it's so it's fascinating to hear the nonsense. You know, first off, Africa, for instance, wasn't a paradise when Europeans arrived. It wasn't a paradise. Full of tropical diseases, small population bases. Africa's population, let's get Africa's population in 1960, okay? Africa's population over time. Let's take a look at a chart of this. Let me see how far it goes back. 1950, okay? Yeah, here we go. Come on, please give me the chart. There we go. All right. So in 1950, Africa's population was 232 million. Today it's 1.5 billion. 1.4. Wait a second. That isn't right. Oh, I'm way ahead of myself here. There we go. Yeah, here we go. We're at almost 1.5 billion. Okay? It was 238 million, or 227 million in 1950. When independence came in 1960, Africa had a population of 284 million. So Africa's population has grown by 1.2 billion since 1960. So what has happened since 1960? Were the colonialists castrating and introducing sterilization drugs into the water of all Africans before 1960? No. Medical advances, medicines, hospitals, clinics. Many Africans don't have access to many of them, but all of that's taken place. The many developments in the world that have made life more livable, almost all of which have come from the United States and Western Europe. Yeah, if you were an English-speaking white person, you were also discriminated against. Only the degree of discrimination varied. Well, Charles, turnabout's fair play. We saw what the English did to the Afrikaners and Boers. So, hey, they got it in spades coming back in 1948. And successful farming does increase population. That's in the Middle East, in the Fertile Crescent, when we first became agriculturalists, human population boomed. But guess what also boomed? When human population went from hunter-gathering populations, remote, isolated, small bands of people, like the Khoisan, to massive agglomerations of population, what happens? You get an increase in disease. You also get an increase in violence. And you get an increase in ecological devastation. And finally, rodent populations. Yep. British Empire is a great thing that ever happened in this world, and it's not even licensed, Pablo, okay? Can I buy a property in the... No, you can't, Charles, and neither can I. Neither can I. And I can't buy property in Oranje because I'm not a Dutch Calvinist and I don't speak Afrikaans fluently. Plus, I don't want to live in the middle of nowhere. All righty, so that's an interesting conversation. Thanks, everybody, for being here. Wow, what a mix. What a day. So we're still at 90 at this point, yeah. Local wildlife diseases, black races, and commies want to exterminate uses. Yeah, crazy world. All right. Hey, folks, 2 hours we've gone over. Thanks for the super chat. That was awesome, African Idiot. Thanks for the 119 likes, the 93 people still here after 2 hours of broadcasting. That's awesome. I'll be back tomorrow. Busy day for me tomorrow. I wasn't able to do my rugby recording this morning because a power outage in Pretoria. So we'll be doing that. And then I've got my broadcast on Wednesdays with the Colonel. Then I've got a meeting in the afternoon and then my radio program tomorrow. I'm going to be knackered tomorrow night. Hurricane relief for Katrina, Red Cross, FEMA were useless bureaucrats. We look over empty factory and got power on a shelter, 1,200 people. Light Rain, I'm not going to disagree with you that those people were useless, but what I will tell you, and I will correct the record, not that you've misstated, but for anybody who tries to misstate the record, I worked in the Pentagon, in the intelligence office, in the basement of the Pentagon, and briefed the chief, not on a daily basis, but I could have gone his briefings every day, but I did brief him frequently. I only went when I had a product for him, which was frequently, but not every day. And the U.S. Department of Defense did amazing work and saved tens of thousands of lives and brought all kinds of relief pre-Katrina and in the aftermath of Katrina, a story that's never told. Someone needs to write a book on that someday. Anyway, that's going to do it, folks. Everywhere we've thrived, Oman, Brunei, name it. Who's that? Color folks or Afrikaners? All right, folks, thanks a lot. Catch you next time. God bless and have a good day. Appreciate you being here. Cheers, cheers, cheers. Thanks.